Hello and welcome to Full Throttle on Unprecedented TV in association with the Alliance of British Drivers. I'm Brian Gregory, Policy Director of the ABD, and in this episode we're going to step back to look at the latest developments affecting motorists, energy and transport policy right across the UK and indeed globally. From fuel costs to infrastructure and from government decisions to real-world impact, we'll be breaking down what is making the headlines and what it actually means in practice.
And hello, I'm Paul Naylor, Communications Director for the Alliance of British Drivers. And as always, we will be cutting through the noise and focusing on the substance behind the stories. We've had some brilliant guests on recent episodes, including Andrew Bridgen, Mike Graham, Catherine Porter, and David Turver, many of those household names. And if you want to dive deeper into those conversations, you can find those by looking through the Full Throttle back catalogue on Unprecedented TV's YouTube channel and across various social media platforms. So buckle up, this is Full Throttle. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Paul. I thought I'd start today's episode with something that's hot off the press. Mm-hmm. I recently got in touch with my local MP, Matt Vickers, so I have to say is a very good constituency MP, irrespective of political party. Yeah. And he does pay attention to what his constituents are saying and the issues that concern them. And I got in touch with him to talk about C40cities.org and Sadiq Khan and the UK 100 cities, which is more than 100 cities now. And these are local authorities that have signed up to the full sort of net zero, full fat version without consulting their electorates locally, and are actually pushing ahead with measures to dice and slice their towns up into little areas that you can't go across, like Oxford and Cambridge and other places, basically, to try to stop you from moving about freely. And he came back with a comment. And as an aside, he mentioned, the UK is only responsible for 1% of carbon dioxide emissions. And loads of politicians, even Lee Anderson, made this same mistake. The UK is not responsible for 1% of global carbon dioxide emissions. It's responsible for 1% of man-made carbon dioxide emissions. Man-made carbon dioxide emissions are about 3.5% of the total. 96.5% of carbon dioxide emissions come from natural sources and over which we have no control whatsoever. So we can do all that we like to try to abate man-made emissions. Is not going to make a jot of difference to the climate, because we're only working on a 30th of the total. Yeah. And the other 96.5% we can't do anything about.
And again, there's been all sorts of comments being made by various people on news items and features that I've heard, many of them MPs, many of them prominent, saying, why are we doing this to ourselves as a country? This virtue signaling has got to stop.
Yeah.
There's, as you just explained, the science shows that it's a nonsense.
Yeah.
Even that 1% is being misquoted, and I can see why they're coming to that figure, because they're not delving deep enough into it. But the fact of the matter is, even if that were the case, even if it was that 1%, none of these other countries are getting involved in this. Nobody's signing up to this.
Yeah.
And we're just going to, let's face it, we're a little bit of a laughing stock at the moment anyway. We're certainly not helping by having policies like that. And just tracking back to what you said at the start there, Brian, whereby these ideas are being brought in, these ideologies are being brought in without the electorate having a say-so in it.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. This is fundamental to how we live. So, you would want some sort of say in it,
And as it was brought in by statutory instrument, the net zero legislation, it wasn't voted on by Parliament.
No.
Parliament can't even really argue that it voted on the issue. It was just adopted, on the nod. So
who adopts it? Who decides to adopt it? The council, the local council.
It was Theresa May.
Right.
Well, she was Prime Minister. She decided that we were going to go for net zero, and as I say, there was no vote on it. It was done by statutory instrument, and this is the route that Starmer is now planning to take to further enmesh us into the European Union. There won't be individual parliamentary votes. There'll be one sort of piece of legislation to which all the others are attached, and it will be done by statutory instruments. So there'll be no need for MPs to vote on it. Well, actually, this is an issue, that we had a referendum on, and the referendum decided that we were going to leave the EU, not rejoin it by stealth. So if that's what he plans to do, he needs to call an election or have another referendum.
Absolutely. And I would say that the points that you raised at the start of this are equally as important as being as part of the EU. Trying to change the way that we live our lives, trying to sort of be basically on permanent lockdown. That's not that's not a life; it's an existence. Nobody wants that.
Absolutely, and that's what this Green Party, Zelensky, whatever the hell he's called, Zach, is it?
Zach Polanski,
their policies, when you look at them in depth, they read like something out of the Marxo-fascist political manual. Everybody's under total control, under the thumb of the state. You will do what you're allowed to do, nothing more and nothing less, and what you're told to do. Well, actually, that didn't work for me. You can take that manual and stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
I think at the moment we've got a number of parties that are using policies, certain ideas and ideologies to effectively buy a vote. And the parties that are strong enough to basically tell it how it is and say, look, we're going to sort things out this way, that way, the other. We're not going to continue handing out to people that are eternally on benefits when they should be and could be at work. Those parties are going to struggle a little bit if people haven't got the common sense to realise that you need a strong government, not one that's going to give you freebies left, right, and centre.
Well, especially when they borrowed money to do it in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not it's not coming out of their pocket; it's coming out of everybody else's.
Well, exactly. That's the point. And I mean, it's a truism, I know, but Thatcher said that socialism only works until it runs out of other people's money. And it's very true.
That's a great quote. Yeah, absolutely.
It is absolutely. It's a brilliant quote. Everything seems to revolve around this idea that the state needs to have more control and needs to get bigger and bigger. Well, actually, no. The state needs less and less control. It needs to butt out of people's lives, and it needs to try and stop forcing everybody to do things that they don't actually want to do.
Yeah.
The point of a government is actually to enact the things the electorate wants, not enact things that it wants and then force them on the electorate. That's completely the wrong way around.
Yeah.
The government is full, or should be full, of our servants, not our masters.
Yes. Exactly. That's the point I was just going to make. Yeah, they are here to serve, not to tell us what to do. Somewhere along the line, that's got lost. It's been a strange past 7 to 10 years, really, hasn't it? Let's be honest.
It has, absolutely, yes, very much so. From when Johnson got in and his wife, Carrie Fisher, or whatever the hell she's called, carried somebody.
So it wasn't Carrie Fisher. I definitely know.
Carrie somebody. I think she's called Carrie. And she had very clear sort of radical environmental views, I think, which she seemed to have passed on to him. Although I must admit that his father was instrumental in that as well, because if you've ever watched Stanley Johnson and listened to some of the things he says, they're quite frightening, actually. He thinks that 95% of the Earth's population should be dispensed with because there's too many of us. And the ruling elite, should be attended to by this sort of 5% that remain of minions, and the top, echelon, they would be served by these, lower beings. It's quite sort of, it's Marxo-fascist, really. I mean, it's the sort of views that the Germans and the Stalinists obviously held. All men are equal, just some people are a lot less equal than others.
Yeah, yes. Yet more dystopian sci-fi stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyway, turning away from dystopia, let's have a look at some of the top issues of the last few weeks that I've picked up doing my sort of digest of news events. And the first one that really amused me is it's called the Rainer effect. And apparently, it's been established that humanity reached an intellectual peak in the 1870s, and we've been declining since then. And that's worrying enough. But the most worrying, or even equally worrying part, is that people with left of centre views are getting stupider faster than people with centre and right of centre views. And the problem is that they've got a lot of governments led by people with left of centre views, and they're not as bright as the people on the other side of the spectrum. So, it definitely is the sort of lions being led by donkeys sort of situation. And anyway, this is called the Rainer effect, and in the digest there's a reference to it. Left wingers are becoming stupid faster than right wingers.
Well,
this is a very left-wing government, so it explains a lot of the stupid decisions.
It explains the last few months.
Including Mr. Miliband must be in the vanguard of the stupidity endowed ones.
He's top of the class. Or bottom of the class, depending on how you want to look at it. There was a film that came out a few years back, Brandon. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's worth watching because it'll make you chuckle based on the Rainer effect. And it's called Idiocracy. And it starts off by explaining the dumbing down of the planet. And it points to the direction of the wrong people being the ones that are having all the children. And it's brilliant. It's more scary than it is funny. And it is funny. So look that one up, viewers. Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. But that describes what we are being governed by, an idiocracy at the moment. There's no question about that. I mean, we have Miliband. We have Miliband still steadfastly. Yes, that's the very one.
Well done, Charlotte.
Miliband steadfastly refusing to exploit our oil and gas resources in the North Sea, and we're actually buying those resources back from Norway at an extra cost. Our other energy resources are coming from links, interconnectors from the continent, from Norway, from Denmark. And of course, if their energy grid is challenged, then they will stop exporting power to us. Because they want to look after their own domestic customers first. And then we're buying LNG from not Qatar at the moment, but from time to time from Qatar and from the United States. And it costs a huge amount to compress natural gas, to make it into a liquid form, to tanker it across in a diesel tanker, pouring out, loads of not so nice fumes coming across the Atlantic, and then we have to degas it again to get it into our network, when we could just actually extract it from the North Sea and pipeline it in directly at far less cost, less environmental impact, and it would solve all of the problems that we're now seeing and will increasingly see from using renewables, because surprise, renewables are reliably unreliable, and so they have to be backed up by conventional generation. And we're moving along at snail's pace on nuclear, proliferation. We just decided, I think, at last, to give Rolls-Royce the chance to produce small medium reactors. I think it's on Anglesey or something like that.
That rings a bell.
At last. But this should have been done many years ago. And in fact, when my wife and I first moved to the area where we now live from a job, when we were in the process of trying to move here, one of the houses that we looked at buying was in a nearby village called Kirklevington, and the couple we were buying it from were planning to move down to Knutsford, which was where they were going to relocate fast breeder technology research. So this guy was all ready to move down to Knutsford, and a company was organising all of the relocation and all the rest of it. And then suddenly they binned the whole idea. And so this relocation company turned everything into reverse. And he didn't go down to Knutsford, and we didn't move into his bungalow. So, and this all started over 30 years ago. This lunacy, this sort of dragging our heels on nuclear, not securing our combined cycle gas turbine. In fact, starting to actually decommission and dismantle conventional gas-fired power stations, while our energy reliability is going down the pan. And as we've already seen with Portugal and Iberia, if you have two bigger renewables contribution to the grid, the slightest problem with load, and the whole thing falls over and loads of people die.
Yeah.
So we've got despite that, we have an energy minister who's still committed to this.
I know.
Leading us back to the Rona effect.
Yeah, exactly. Very nicely. Everything comes full circle. The one thing I did hear earlier in the week, I think it might have been on Talk Radio, I think, was they were saying that there's a real pushback against these air pumps, heating pumps.
Heat pumps,
Which I don't think have ever been of any use anyway, but they've been sort of like, there's been advertising campaigns trying to push them onto us with little bully characters. Friend of mine who's a little bit sort of forward thinking like that, he's got the heat pump at his house, and the radiators, if you want to call them that, they are huge. You basically cannot get into his bathroom the way you used to be able to get in there.
You need to get the KY gel out to get into the bathroom.
You come out of there like a cork out of a bottle. It's crazy.
Apparently, they're most efficient when it's hot and you want to cool down.
Exactly.
But they are totally inefficient when it's cold and you want to warm up.
Yeah. So what's the point of them?
Antithesis of a decent heating system.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy, and again, I just don't understand why people aren't up in arms about this. It's sort of like we're, as a country, we seem to be like that brilliant game Lemmings that I used to play back in the 90s on my Mega Drive.
Yes, I remember that. My two sons used to play it avidly.
Yes,
I remember.
Yes, I'd be playing it. I'd be playing it away. I think I was due to go to work, and I'd be playing away, and I'd look at the clock, and it was 3:30 in the morning. You think, "Whoops, I better go to bed." But that's how it feels at the moment. It just feels like everyone's just going.
Miliband is the chief lemming, but he always stands and watches everybody else throw them over the cliff. He unfortunately doesn't, lead them to oblivion. He watches them. Yeah.
There we go. What? Oh, Charlotte, I stayed up many nights playing that. Ridiculous.
I played less because I found a thing, and it was a very old thing called MiG-29. It was a very basic flight sim compared with modern ones, but it was quite enjoyable. And I too ended up some mornings where I got into real trouble the next morning when my wife woke up and she said, "You were up until some stupid time, and I was on MiG-29 while you were playing Lemmings."
There you go. Well, you said, well, I mean, viewers, I popped over to see Brian earlier in the week, and I went into his office, and it looked more like a cockpit of some sort of fighter jet. There's all sorts of stuff going on, but flight sims. I've dabbled in those, but that's a fair old commitment. That is. I mean, that's hours and hours and hours of.
You can play. Usually the missions probably take about an hour. But they are very immersive. And my son's he's not so much into flight sims. He likes racing sims, Assetto Corsa and Force Italia or something. I think it is.
Oh yeah, I played those. Yeah.
And he's got all the kit for that, and he just loves them.
Yeah, just makes you wonder.
I quite like them. There's one particular I like trying to take the M3 around the Nordschleife, which is the Nürburgring, and it's tricky. It's very tricky because the original M3 is rear wheel drive, and it's very easy to get the back chasing the front if you don't put the acceleration on in a straight line.
See, now in a few years' time, with all this indoctrination, we'll have EV Driver 1, and it'll be the same track but with a car going round, getting about halfway around, either spontaneously,
and then they have to
running out of battery. There'll be a diesel charging truck coming into it. Yeah.
Did you see? Apparently, some environmental activists actually tried to interrupt one of these Grand Prix.
Did they?
No, yes, the Formula E it's called.
Formula E, yeah.
Activists actually tried to disrupt that.
Yeah. I mean,
leading back to the Rayner principle again.
Yeah, that's like that time that they were protesting about some oil tankers and they were vegetable oil.
Yeah, well, okay, that's probably fair enough. The vegetables are trying to stop the vegetables from being delivered. Quite right.
Oh dear. So you put a lot of effort into this transport reality text that you put together every sort of fortnight or so before the meeting. So we've had the Rayner effect. So the next one that I've got here.
The next one really that's of interest to us is probably the fact that OpenAI have decided to step back from putting data centers in the UK because our energy costs are too high. Are you listening, Mr. Miliband? And they said the energy costs are just far too high. And of course they are. They're sort of 4 times higher than they are in the US, I think.
Yeah.
Might even be more than that now.
Did you see what they were doing in one country? I think it was Amsterdam, where they're having floating energy banks. Data centers, floating data centers that they've got on the canal. So they're literally on like wide barges, bobbing along on there. And the water that pumps from the canal is what cools them down and keeps them cool, stops them from overheating. Okay. Well, so it's a very clever thing.
Yeah, it is absolutely. But I mean, certainly these things have huge energy requirements and huge cooling requirements as well.
Yeah.
So the double-edged sword, and I'm not really convinced that AI is going to deliver all the benefits, and certainly it's quite capable of delivering the disadvantages. Because increasingly you get the feeling that it's all about control again.
Yeah.
Rather than when the computer was dumped on the first computer was dumped on my desk at work, it must be 35 years ago now, probably at least.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, what's that?" They said, "Oh, it's a computer." I said, "What do I do with it?" And they said, "Oh, switch it on and work." So there was a lot of lost time learning to use all these things because they didn't give us any proper training at that point, and we were always balking computers accidentally. I mean, it didn't take much in those days.
I worked in the newspaper industry, and in the very early 90s, the regional press that I worked for were one of the first to adopt Apple Mac.
Yes.
They'd had a delegation go out to the States, see how they were using them there, and they decided they were going to bring them into the UK. So they asked me, because I was then a young whippersnapper, and they said, "Oh, this is a young person's game. Oi, Naylor, see if you can teach the salespeople to lift their adverts ready to go into the paper." Well, some of these salespeople, they'd have the mouse, they'd have it on the desk, and instead of picking it up and keep moving it, they'd drag it and they'd go down the leg. It would go down the leg of the desk. And it's like, what are you doing?
Had they gone to an Angela Rayner training course?
They had. It was all sponsored by Young Ange. So, computers, I mean, I suppose we saw the rot setting in years ago with all of this, but this is like what happened with the .com bubble. This is what we're in now again with AI, and it's having exactly the same impact with markets, everything. And the scary thing about AI is that people depend on it so much that unless you know what the output should be, it's like if you put something in there and you get an answer out of it, if you don't know that answer is correct, then you're going to go ahead and process something that could be a
exactly.
lie, could be dangerous,
Yeah, but I mean, it's like a lot of these things, unless you've got an idea of an order of magnitude of where the answer should be, it's very then hard to know, well, is this rubbish or is this sound evidence or advice?
Yeah, and then the truth gets slowly diluted.
Yeah, and increasingly people are using it to make decisions for them instead of actually using their own brains.
Yes.
And the thing we've just talked about earlier about people getting more and more stupid since the 1870s, this will just enhance the effect. And it's against the background of I recently saw that in Sweden they're going back to actually using pen and paper and taking all the screens away.
So they should.
They've done research that actually shows that children actually learn better under the conventional kind of regime where the teacher talks and you write things down and you listen, rather than sitting just gawping at a screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm convinced I'll just make that worse.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to have grown up now. No, definitely not. No. Yeah, pen and pencil, paper, those are definitely the ways to go. Plus also, I hope nothing ever happens that brings the whole network of world-linked computers down, but it could happen. And if it did, you've got generations now that have never used to working things out with pens and paper.
Long division,
trouble.
Like that.
Oh, yeah. Shocking. Yeah.
And certainly don't know how to write the Queen's English.
No. Or the King's.
I suppose it's supposed to be the King's English.
I know what you meant. Yeah. So what else have we got here, Brian?
Well, the other big thing that didn't receive a lot of publicity is that India, at the last COP 28, was it, or something?
28, yes.
Made the offer to the IPCC or whatever it is, the UN, I don't know which of them, to actually host the next meeting in New Delhi.
Yeah, that's COP 28.
Quietly and off the record, they took them aside and said, actually, you've changed our minds. We're not going to host it now. You'll have to find somewhere else. And it's because India is clearly backing off from all this net zero nonsense, and it's not politically popular in India. So they've decided perhaps we'll just pass on that and let some other mug, host it at huge expense and destruction of rainforests and all the rest of it that accompanied the last one. So they actually backed off. So it shows that there's a dawning realization that that this whole climate change, man-made runaway man-made carbon dioxide driven climate change junket is running out of steam.
Yeah. Do you think that when we inevitably get a change of government, say potentially it's reform, do you think that with everything that they've said, where they will turn their back on this net zero agenda, do you think that will happen? I hope it. Yeah,
I hope so. But I think the key things. Well, I would do several key things. One of them would go further than repealing the Climate Change Act. I would go right back to 1972 and repeal the European Communities Act 1972, because that would invalidate all of the EU legislation that's crept into our economy and into our national psyche since then. And we could go back to being like we were 50 years ago, and it was better than it is now.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, we're facing a set of circumstances where we're being dragged back into the EU through the back door without any voting rights.
Yes,
what's the sense of that?
None. Well, except to the Rainerites.
Yeah.
And it's the more and more you see of the EU. I mean, they are rejoicing at the minute that they managed to get rid of Orban in Hungary. The Hungarian long-term prime minister, I think he was. I'm not sure, prime minister or president. But the new guy seems to be somebody called Magyar. Actually, seems to have, to their dismay, partly taken on his mantle. So they got rid of Orban, but found that the new guy isn't quite as pliant as they thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Orban was the guy who was holding back 90 million euros in loans to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So they're going to get that through. So that's more money for Zelensky to misappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, we've got our own situation here, of course, with Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
I had the privilege of actually going to university to the same college as Mandelson while he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And my first encounter with Mandelson was when I tried to go into the junior common room at St. Catherine's College to buy a beer. Right? Perfectly reasonable thing for a student to do. I was over 18. I was legally, I could have a beer in the JCR if I wanted. And Mandelson, bless his cotton socks, had organised a sit-in in the JCR. No beer was being delivered because he wanted the JCR, the junior common room, to have the same privileges as there was then the middle common room, which was postgraduates, and then there was a senior common room, which was fellows and key members of the college. And he wanted the youngest lot, the undergraduates like me and him. I think he might have been the middle common. He wanted them all to have the same privileges. It was so the total egalitarian thing,
Yeah.
But I rapidly decided I didn't have a high opinion of this person, and it seems to be borne out in subsequent years.
Yeah, I think
that way.
You spotted a wrong one, definitely.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't sat there in a dressing gown, was he, by any chance?
I don't know. Maybe I turned a blind eye.
You've blanked that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what else have we got here, Brian?
The other interesting one was a major UK airline, EcoJet.
Yeah.
The clue might be in the name. Plunges into liquidation with all flights cancelled. And who would have thought that an airline that bases its business offer on battery electric aircraft might have found that wasn't a viable proposition? Who'd have thought that, eh?
Did they actually ever have anything in the air? Because I don't recall seeing them.
I don't know, but certainly all of their everything's gone. That they're in liquidation. All flights have been cancelled. I don't know if any actually ever took off.
No,
because I think the range of these current battery electric aircraft is maybe 100 miles before you've got to land and refuel again. So it would be like a series of 100-mile frog hops. But quite where you land it when you're in the middle of the Atlantic, and when you run out of power, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
So yes, that one's gone down the Swanee, and I thought that was probably natural justice taking.
I mean, that's a positive story from the airline industry at the moment, where we're looking at potentially a massive disruption to the summer holidays this year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to the point where I was talking to Charlotte, our producer, earlier, saying that when I go away in the middle of May, I'm probably going to take my laptop with me, not to do work while I'm there, but just in case I get stuck out there and need to do some, have 2 weeks out there. That'd be nice. An extra 2 weeks, that'd be great. But to take a laptop with me, because I might need to be working away from home, I would imagine. But
I find it quite strange that, watching the television at the moment, there's, even if you're watching catch up or streaming, there's loads of adverts for Jet2, Ryanair, all advertising flights.
Yeah.
In the background, they're in discussion with government about a contingency plan for what to do if jet fuel becomes, becomes in short supply. Well, it's a very simple answer. Start bloody drilling in the North Sea and open up our refineries and start refining it here so that we don't run out while other people do.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing that Miliband is banging on about is being energy self-sufficient. We can be, just not the way he wants to do it. And anyway, the way he wants to do it, there's no self-sufficiency anyway, because the products are built elsewhere.
Yeah. It's just complete and utter lunacy that if he thinks we can be reliant on interconnectors, on imported gas and oil, it defies logical explanation. But I think the problem is, like apparently California now has similar problems. And California, I think, is population-wise is similar to the UK. I think it's about 70 million, something like that. Well, they've got an idiot of a governor called Newsom. Is it Gary Newsom?
Sounds right. Yeah.
And apparently, they have a ban on using fossil fuels. And what's happening at the moment is they're buying them by the back door and bringing them in and still using them, even though they're supposed to be banned. But of course, with now all these problems with tankers, moving around the world, California could be in the situation, probably not at the moment, but towards the end of the year, that they could find their generating capacity gets, challenged, and they'll have blackouts and brownouts, greyouts, all the rest of it, because of his Miliband-esque energy policy. And two of them, I think, should be locked in a dark room with damp flannels on their heads, and until their sanity returns, and then we can let them out and let them back into politics, or maybe into road mending, or drain digging and something like that.
I particularly like the damp flannel. That was a high point.
yeah, it would be the high point, actually.
They certainly need locking up, Brian.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was that song? They're coming to take me away. Those nice young men in their clean white jackets. It applies to both of them.
It certainly does. Yeah,
indeed.
I would imagine they get on very well.
I would guess so. Yeah.
How's he going to get there, though? What's he going to do? Fly on a plane?
I can loan him a canoe.
We won't be going with EcoJet. That's one thing for sure.
No, he won't. In fact, he should probably set off on the northeast coast from Seaton Canoe. The place where that guy supposedly went out in the water and disappeared, and they found him somewhere in South America or something after his wife had claimed his insurance from drowning.
It was quite a nice idea, wasn't it?
It wasn't exactly legal. It was
no.
Who was that? There was a Labour minister who tried to do the same sort of thing. He was up to his eyes in debt or something, and he decided he'd walk out to sea. Was it Stonehouse or somebody? John
that sounds
Stonehouse?
right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Obviously, he'd blazed the trail for this other guy in Seaton Carew to do the same thing. And because Seaton Carew is just down the road from the factory where I used to work, and it actually has a nuclear reactor which was to be decommissioned, but I think they've decided that maybe it should be kept running a bit longer. An outbreak of short interval of sanity, apparently, because everything else this government's doing is insane. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
So what else have we got? Oh yes, I found an interesting article basically saying that it's a new study, and they'd looked at temperature increase because apparently there's a big gap between ocean surface temperatures and land surface temperatures that the current green lobby doesn't want to engage with. What this study has shown is that the land temperature measurements all now suffer from the urban heat island effect, because a lot of the stations, there's been urban encroachments, so they're basically concrete locked now, and the temperatures in concrete areas with large amounts of concrete are anywhere between 1 and 5 degrees above the surrounding countryside.
Right.
Okay. And then the other problem in the UK particularly is that a lot of these stations, not only are they landlocked, or they've got the runway for an RAF fighter station right next to the sensors, the actual temperature measurements that they produce are class 5, which is basically junk, plus or minus 5 degrees. There's a scale of 1, which is like that's the Poodle's private, shall we say? Those are accurate, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the quality of the temperature measurements and their reliability goes down the pan.
Take with a pinch of salt.
Out of I think it was over 300 stations in the UK, 80% or more of them are actually class 5. So they're totally unreliable. They're not fit.
80%.
Yeah, yes, it's the vast majority of them. And in many cases, there are stations which stopped existing 30 odd years ago, and the Met Office is putting in numbers by estimating from adjacent stations what the temperature should be. And of course, that will be based on their sort of Michael Mann hockey stick thing, not on adjacent rural stations. So it's not surprising that then you find the land temperature measurements are apparently going up like that, but the sea surface temperatures are like that.
Yeah.
So of course, the more land temperature measurements you put in, based on urban heat island effect influenced stations, the worse it makes the apparent rise in the temperature appear to be. But it's a statistical artifact, and an artifact relating to increasing urbanization. So anyway, this paper estimated that in terms of the warming since 1850, it reckoned that 30% of it might be human, 50% was natural variability, and 20% was due to the surface temperature record bias that we've just been discussing.
Yeah.
So don't rely on anything produced by any of the Met offices, because they're basically junk.
Well, I would argue if something is 80% inaccurate, then it's not a system to use at all anyway.
Yeah.
That's shocking. That is shocking.
Yeah.
So what else have we got here that you really like?
Yeah. There's another thing that there's a guy called Roger Pielke who is, I suppose he's not a climate realist. He's a skeptical warmist, if you see what I mean. And he has actually done a study of the latest trends in tornado damage and frequency. And there's, and of course the Green Lobby says, extreme weather's getting more and more frequent. It's causing more and more damage. Well, actually, it isn't. There's no evidence suggesting tornadoes and hurricanes are getting any more frequent. And the number of people losing their lives to them is actually down dramatically. It's over, I think, about 95% reductions from the 50s, or and it's the cost of the damage is the problem, because you've got all these people like DiCaprio, and Leonardo DiCaprio and all these other Obama, all buying beachside properties. And the value of these beachside properties, of course, is inflating enormously because they're very desirable. And if they're damaged by fire or storm or whatever, then the cost of repair is enormous. But it's because all these rich people are stupidly relocated to places that they're saying, while they're using their private jets to fly everywhere to tell us not to use our cars, they're buying beachside properties that, really they should not be buying, because apparently we're all going to be, underwater in 50 years. And again, there's no scientific evidence supporting that proposition either.
No. I mean, where was it? Was it Hollywood, where they had all those forest fires through the years, and we lost a lot of celebrities' properties. You would think that would be enough for them to really think about where they were going to put their homes. And moving from somewhere that's got dense trees and foliage, and then deciding, I'll go and live down by the sea where I can get flooded. Not the brightest of moves.
Not really, but again, even even the evidence on wildfires and things, is that they're not any more frequent, and in recent years they've actually gone down in number. But the big problem with the California issue is forest management, and it's another one. It's similar in Australia as well, that instead of doing the conventional thing and having fire breaks, that they've allowed these things to just grow wild and not be properly tended. And then of course, if a fire starts, it does spread like wildfire, because they used to cut breaks in to make it so that only a certain area could set on fire, but now because they're all untended and all merging in together, then it just wipes the whole damn lot out. So again, it's environmental policy that's actually not rational.
Well, it's penny pinching dressed up as environmental policy, I would suggest.
And there's also a malign element, because quite a few of the fires in the San Francisco area they found were actually set by loony climate activists literally deliberately set fire to places so they could say, "Oh, it's wildfire, it's climate change."
Yeah, trying to prove a point.
And the guys ended up in prison for that, thankfully, hopefully for a long time.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Oh dear.
What other exciting stuff have we got here? This same guy, Roger Pielka, has produced 2 papers on top-down climate economics. So he deconstructs all the claims that climate change is going to dramatically reduce economic activity and economic wealth. And basically, again, they're all based on junk science assumptions. And when you actually dig into them, they're just complete nonsense. They're not supported by a rational evaluation of the evidence and the facts. But the media just parrot all this stuff without anybody actually doing any real investigative journalism. They just copy paste. Yeah, just ridiculous.
The whole news industry certainly struggles these days, not only with who's in it, but how it's staffed as well. You tend to have like a tenth of the staff that you would previously have had at a newspaper or at a TV studio. And like you say, they're all cutting and pasting and taking elements from things using AI, and it's dwindling and dwindling down as to what the actual story, the truth in the story actually is. Yeah. So it's shocking.
But linking back to what we were talking about earlier, the sort of data center thing, OpenAI have actually backed off from citing the data centers in the UK. But in America now, there's a big backlash starting against the data centers because people don't want them near their homes. Because there's a potential fire risk with these places with big amounts of battery storage and a large energy intake. But the I was going to say the other issue is the local grid reliability, and people are just concerned that they're going to find that this thing will be sucking up all the available power, and that they might find that their supplies in effect degraded as a result. There's a guy called Price, Robert Price, I think his name is, and you can find his Substack. Robert Bryce, sorry, that's it. Robert Bryce, B-R-Y-C-E. And if you look up his Substack, there's a lot of information there on resource use in America, particularly on stuff like AI centers and nuclear technology as well, which he's quite an astute guy. And it's worth looking at.
Because these data centers, basically, it's just storage for all the stuff that's coming off computer servers, that sort of thing. The fact that we're relying so heavily on this goes back to what we were saying earlier about using pen and paper. It's a dangerous way to go. This is. It really is. This is open to sabotage, and this is the sort of thing that wars would be fought over.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course these are going to present huge energy demands on the local grids, and the US grid in a lot of states is no more resilient than the UK grid is. Some places, Texas, I think, is a lot better now because they had a big scare a few years ago in the winter, and they have beefed up the capability of their grid. They've kept conventional high inertia generation, combined cycle gas turbine, nuclear, stuff like that, which has made their grid a lot more resilient. But a lot of American states are a long way from that situation. California and New York being two in particular that are at risk. And these data centers are going to present the same problems for many states in America as they're going to present in this country. And unless we have some people who are sane in control of our energy policy, they're going to actually break our grid.
So there's plenty going on in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, ABD is known first and foremost for fighting for the rights of the UK drivers. How can people get in touch with the Alliance of British Drivers, Brian?
go on our website, on the Alliance of British Drivers website, and there's a join us there. You can join or donate. If you just want to make a donation rather than actually be a member, although being a member is not really that costly. It's anywhere between £25 and £40. If you go for 25, you get the online magazine, Driving Sense, and then if you pay an extra 15, you go to 40. Is it now? I think it's 40.
Is it 45 now? 45?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Might be 45. Yeah.
So it's 30 for standard membership and 45.
Yes, 30. That's right.
Yeah.
So you can then get Driving Sense Extra, one printed issue every quarter.
That's right. Yeah. And the one thing that we're looking for as well at the Alliance of British Drivers is anybody that's interested in getting involved and helping out behind the scenes. So at the moment, we're looking for anybody that's willing to be a director. And it's not as daunting as it sounds. It's something where Brian and myself could sit down with them and talk about what their strengths are and what they would like to contribute.
It would particularly be helpful if they have a scientific background and understand a bit about climate science, energy, but a lot of it comes from actually researching it yourself. I mean, that's basically my background was in the chemical industry, so I'm used to researching that kind of stuff. But a lot of it now you can find if you prepare to access different sources than just the mainstream media, because the message you get from mainstream media is not reliable anymore these days. And certainly organizations like the BBC are just completely their junk status as far as I'm concerned, because everything has a heavy political bias and the narrative. But certainly we're looking for people with a background in finance as well. We can do with help with the finances of the organization and membership management as well.
And also to help us gather the articles similar to what we've been talking about today as well. So if there's anybody, if there's any retired journalists out there that just feel like they want to dabble and help out, they're more than welcome to get in touch.
To get in touch with us, exactly. Just email either of us. Me, brian.gregory@abd.org.uk. And
the best one for me is probably paul@mediaandyou.co.uk. We're very passionate about what we're doing here. We're trying to fight for the rights of the UK drivers, and that's not just your car drivers. It's people that are taking your tins of beans backwards and forwards from Asda to warehouses and stuff like that.
Exactly.
We're good partners with the likes of Howard Cox and Fair Fuel UK. We've worked with organisations such as MAG, which is more motorcycle orientated. And increasingly, we're getting involved with fighting against some of these crazy net zero agenda items that keep cropping up. And we need help to do it. So if you're of that same like-minded attitude towards life, then get in touch, and I'm sure you'll be able to help us in some way or other. Don't have to feel that you're overly committed. It's help here, there, and everywhere. If you can only commit to a couple of hours, that's fine. If you want to do more, that's welcome too. So get in touch, drop us a line, and start some sort of dialogue with us.
Just one more. We were just talking about drilling in the North Sea earlier on. Well, I came across some information basically saying that North Sea oil gas drilling for North Sea oil and gas enabled the government to raise 9.9 billion in oil and gas tax revenue in 2022-23. That will drop to 4.4 billion in 24-25, and then down to 2.7 billion in 25-26. And the problem is, when they stop drilling and start decommissioning, the government is duty bound to pay back the decommissioning costs, which they committed to. So that if they're allowed to shut down completely, they will be a drag on the economy.
It's mad, isn't it?
And to contrast that, Norway, these very green Norwegians, right, collected 28.8 billion pounds, 28.8. So over 3 times what we collected in 22-23. In 2025, they collected 28 billion in oil and gas taxes, and a lot of that goes into their sovereign wealth fund, which funds all their pensions.
Yeah, we've got a lot to learn as a nation. We really have.
Well, we've got a lot of politicians who've got a lot to learn. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Clearly not as bright as the Norwegians.
Definitely not.
Anyway, yes. So apparently, Rachel Reeves is now under pressure to exploit UK oil and gas. I hope she gets that past good old Ed. But I'm not holding my breath.
Worst case scenario: Keir Starmer goes, Miliband takes control. Could you see that happening?
Which is worse, isn't it? Him or Rayner?
I know. You know? I think either way, whoever takes, they won't be there long.
The dunce's cap between the two of them.
Yeah, they won't be there long, Brian.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, it's just whether they do any irreversible damage. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, but almost everything this government's done seems to me to be on the verge of being irreversible damage. Yeah. But no, you're right. Nothing is irreversible if you're prepared to throw enough resources at it.
Exactly. Well, that's been a fascinating hour delving into the headlines behind the headlines. It's been an hour. Yeah.
Doesn't time fly? You're enjoying yourself.
Well, I'll let you go and have an ice cream now in the garden.
Drinking chocolate, I think, actually. Oh, no, actually, we've got some chocolates in the freezer. Not a bad idea.
He's off for a choc ice, folks. I'm off for a Vimto. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Cheers, Paul. Have a good weekend, everyone.
And you. Yeah.